Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star 2 episode number 52 based on novel. So let's start. It's a big trouble. At the Yangfeng Hall, Di Chuyu and the Deputy Hall Master were startled. In the entire world, only the God King and the Chaos Realm were considered high level, and every Chaos Peak existence was inviolable. Even the royal family of the ancient Flame Wind country would not provoke them at will. Because of the existence of the Chaos Peak, the spiritual will is at least at the Chaos Peak, or even the God King level. Once they perform the reincarnation secret technique, they can reincarnate with complete memories. For such an existence, if anyone dares to take advantage of his background to cause trouble, he will be killed directly. After being killed, he will be reincarnated directly. No matter how powerful your background is, you can't find out the other person's reincarnation identity. In addition, there is a tacit understanding in the origin continent that the God Kings will not easily intervene in the Chaos Realm confrontation without sufficient reason. Therefore, outside of the two ancient countries, the Chaos Peak is already the strongest deterrent under normal circumstances. We can't help him. The deputy museum owner shook his head. Luo, he is too reckless. Why did he insist on succeeding on impulse when he was weak? Perhaps he thought he could protect himself. Di Chuyu frowned, but the strength of the Peak of Chaos is very terrifying, much stronger than the newly promoted Chaos Realm. Oh no. At the City Lord's mansion, General Yu Wu's face changed slightly. Marquis Lian has to take action just to save his face. General Yonghu also said, I'm worried that Marquis Lian will vent his anger on the entire Huyang city. General Yu Wu said. Yonghu looked at Yu Wu in surprise. General Yu Wu said, Marquis Lian is known as the scourge of the world. Normally, his actions represent the advent of a calamity. And this time, due to this great humiliation, his actions will only be more ruthless. Don't worry, my master gave me something to save my life. I will take you away at the critical moment. General Yu Wu sighed, but I can't protect the entire Huyang city. Yonghu nodded immediately after hearing this. At the same time, he also sighed. They were all disciples of the King of Yu. But among all the disciples of the King of Yu state, Yu Wu was treated 10 times better than them, and even received life-saving items. Master killed Liu Yinyang. Liu Yinhu is about to take action. Mo Yuqingyan was very worried about his master at this moment, and couldn't help but look at Morosa beside him. Don't panic. Morosa comforted and looked up. During this period, Luo Feng had sparred with him many times. He was the one who knew his master's strength best. The dark red armored figure in the sky looked at Luo Feng with cold eyes. Very good, I hope you will still be so confident when you die later. After saying this, the incarnation disintegrated and disappeared between heaven and earth. Luo Feng turned his head and looked at the Xinjiang sect's base in the distance. Boom! A terrifying and oppressive aura has erupted from the Xinjiang sect's headquarters. The real body of Liu Yinhu has arrived here with the help of the time and space treasure bestowed on the Xinjiang sect. Here it comes. Luo Feng looked at the other party. He's coming. Di Chuyu, the deputy museum owner, Zhu Jianghu and others all noticed the terrifying aura that erupted from the Xinjiang sect's base. It was an aura that frightened them. Marquis Lian stood at the Xinjiang sect's headquarters and looked up at Luo Feng from afar. Luo Feng also looked at him. You have courage. Liu Yinhu said softly. Then, he disappeared into thin air. The entire sky darkened in an instant, and endless blood and fire spread, like blood vessels spreading in the sky. This is... What happened to the sky? Countless practitioners in Huyang City looked at the sky in horror. Blood and fire seemed to spread throughout the sky, turning the sky completely dark red. Covered by the dark red sky, the aura of disaster spread, and just watching it made the practitioners feel that death was coming. On the Xinjiang sect's side, the sect master and the 18 elders looked up at the scene. When the Marquis gave me the time and space treasure, it was so that I could arrive instantly and deal with the Marquis Zhejiang. The Xinjiang sect master looked at him. Who would have thought that Luo he would seek death and provoke the Marquis? Maybe Luo he has something to rely on to be so arrogant, an elder asked. Among the Chaos Lords, there are very few who can be called peak of chaos. This Lian Marquis is on par with the great sage Zhu Yuan. How is it possible that a newly promoted Chaos Realm Master who suddenly appeared out of nowhere can resist him? Elder Xinyan shook his head. The Xinjiang sect declined because of the great sage Zhu Yuan. Elder Xinyan and the others had also carefully studied the differences between the Chaos Realms and knew how terrifying the levels of the great sage Zhu Yuan and Marquis Lian were. Marquis Lian only asked him to hand over the Snow Realm Envoy and pay compensation of 1 billion cosmic sands. The life-saving skills of the Chaos Realm are very strong, so it all depends on how good Luo his life-saving secret method is. The Xinjiang sect was also watching. In a battle of this level, they could only stay away. They had watched the battle between the Nine-Source Great Sage and the 3 Chaos Realms of the Heart Shadow sect. The 3 Chaos Realms of the Heart Shadow sect used the Sex formation, but in the end the formation was broken, and 1 died and 2 escaped. Luo Feng looked at the dark red sky. The dark red sky spread for billions of miles, and the aura of disaster spread. Suddenly, a huge face appeared in the dark red sky. It was the face of Marquis Lian. This is my world. Can your secret method of saving life escape from my world? The huge face looked at Luo Feng. As for reincarnation, you are a newcomer to the Chaos Realm. Can reincarnation awaken your memory? Only a God King level can keep one awake all the time, even during the fetal period. The peak will of chaos after reincarnation, the time of awakening memory is uncertain. It may be a teenager, it may be a void true God, or even an eternal true God. If you die again without awakening memory, you will be completely dead. Marquis Lian, before you take action, have you asked me? A voice sounded. Zhu Jiang, who appeared out of nowhere above Huyang City and stood beside Luo Feng. He looked up at the dark red sky. Buzz. Suddenly, the void ripples covered the dark red sky, making the entire dark red sky blurry. Luo he, while I'm fighting with Marquis Lian, you should leave quickly. Marquis Zhu Jiang glanced at Luo Feng and immediately sent a message, take your friends and leave quickly. I can't stop Marquis Lian for too long. Marquis Lian will be furious, and I'm afraid he will vent his anger on the entire Huyang City. Of course, it would be best if I win. Zhu Jianghu smiled, then completely disappeared into the void world. Zhu Jianghu knew that his chances of winning were slim, but he still wanted to fight to decide the outcome. Let's see who is stronger and who is weaker. Boom boom. The world of blood and fire is vast and powerful, but there is an invisible layer of void ripples covering the world of blood and fire, suppressing it. Marquis Zhujiang, do you think you can stop me? Suddenly, figures of blood and fire appeared one after another. Tens of thousands of Marquis Lian appeared at the same time, and each of them swung their swords with blood and fire, instantly tearing the virtual fire ripples. Destroy! Along with an icy shout, a web of void suddenly appeared between heaven and earth. The densely packed void network instantly cut through tens of thousands of Lian Marquis, cutting them all into pieces. Luo Feng watched this scene. In terms of realm alone, they are both above me. Luo Feng watched them fighting and noticed the gap between them. In terms of realm, the moves of Marquis Lian and Marquis Zhujiang were both extremely mysterious, much more powerful than his own silly moves. He couldn't even lock onto their true locations. As the strength increases, not only is the power greater, but the moves are also more incredible. Luo Feng observed carefully. Although he also knew a lot of information about the Chaos Realm, it was not as good as seeing it with his own eyes. During the century since he reached the Chaos Realm, the only Chaos Realm master he had fought against was Morosa. Luo he, why don't you leave? Yangfeng Pavilion Master Di Chuyu said anxiously, Zhu Jianghu is holding the other party, you should leave quickly. Let me see the truth first. Luo Feng looked at him. You. I really don't know why you are so confident. This is the most detailed information about Liu Yinhu. Di Chuyu was unable to persuade him and immediately sent a detailed report. Liu Yinhu is called the calamity of the world. his true body at this moment is not any body, but the world of blood and fire. The world is him, and he is the world. Luo Feng checked the information about Liu Yinhu. The information provided by Di Chuyu was very detailed, and even contained a large number of records of battle scenes. Luo Feng was too poor, so he could only afford to buy some basic information about the existence of the Peak of Chaos. "Thank you, Master." Luo Feng expressed his gratitude through voice transmission. "Luo He, if you don't leave I can't stop you," Zhu Jianghu said anxiously. Bang, bang, bang. The entire world of blood and fire seemed to be boiling, with annihilation everywhere. Zhu Jianghu, who was hiding in the void, was burning his divine power, and it became increasingly difficult to resist. "Marquis Zhujiang, if you can't resist, then leave it to me." Luo Feng smiled slightly. "Leave it to you?" Zhujiang, who was hiding in the void, was surprised. Luo Feng was seen standing there, looking up at the endless world of blood and fire. Rumble, rumble, and see a rolling silver river, instantly sweeping across an endless vast area. Its scope is no less than that of the world of blood and fire. All practitioners in Huyang City noticed that the silver river flowed through every road and every residential area, perfectly protecting Huyang City so that the world of blood and fire could not harm any practitioner. I have practiced 15 kinds of transformation methods. When it comes to large-scale moves, the galaxy transformation method is still my best. Luo Feng thought. During this era, he also went to the Chaos Layer and captured some Chaos Layer creatures. Therefore, the number of methods of change was increased to 15. However, Luo Feng only used 5 methods of transformation on himself. "Get up." Luo Feng thought about it. Vast and huge silver sword lights floated up into the air, with a total of 8,000 sword lights floating at the same time. Liu Yinhu, who had turned into an endless world of blood and fire, looked at this scene with confusion. Because these 8,000 sword lights seemed mighty, but there was no divine power burning. "Kill." Luo Feng looked at the sky. 8 galaxy sword lights, and at the same time, the sword technique, Blade River Slash, was performed. This is a move, Blade River Slash, that Luo Feng created after his realm gradually accumulated. Blade River Slash pursues simplicity and purity. Luo Feng deleted some changes and mysteries, and even deleted the targeting of space, only pursuing the most basic power. In this way, Dao He would naturally put much less strain on one's mental energy. In addition, after Luo Feng's perfect divine body grew to its limit, his soul became more massive due to the nourishment of his physical body, and was able to distract more sword lights. Only after perfecting many aspects could Luo Feng unleash 8,000 sword lights with a single thought. Boom! Even if it is not targeted at space, it just maintains the purest power. When these 8,000 sword lights burst out at the same time, layer after layer of space was instantly shattered, without any ability to resist. Wherever the sword light covered, everything was annihilated, and everything returned to chaos. The blade raged, shattering all layers of space and even touching the outermost membrane wall of the entire world. This layer of membrane wall is the cage membrane wall. Under the ravages of 8,000 sword lights, the cage's membrane wall was still extremely tough and unshakable. If you want to break the cage purely by relying on power, this power is far from enough. But whether it was Marquis Zhujiang, Di Chuyu, or Marquis Lian who was facing the 8,000 sword lights that could destroy the world, they were all stunned. 8,000 sword lights ravaged an area of hundreds of billions of kilometers. Such a huge area shattered all the spatial layers, leaving only the last cage membrane wall. Even the blood and fire world was destroyed in an instant. Part of it was within this range. Unless you can merge into the cage membrane wall, there is no escape. You can only withstand this blow. You actually hurt me. Liu Yin, who hasn't been injured for a long time since he was able to transform into a world of blood and fire. You are not a new member of the Chaos Realm. When the 8,000 sword lights converged and the blood and fire world spread again, a huge face looked at Luo Feng. You are at the peak of the Chaos Realm. The huge face in the sky of seclusion in Huyang City is somewhat unbelievable. In the origin continent, not every Chaos Realm person is willing to join the kingdom and be granted a title of nobility. Because although owning a fiefdom brings a steady stream of resources, it also involves too many things. The more you want to own, the more causes and effects you will be involved. Many Chaos Realm people would rather occupy a remote place and practice in peace. This is the case for Great St. Jiuyuan, Great St. Luo Feng, etc. They gave up a lot of resources, but also saved a lot of trouble. There are also some people in the Chaos Realm who live in complete seclusion, disguised as ordinary practitioners, practicing quietly, just hoping that one day they will completely realize the truth and enter the level of God King. When I attacked Zhejiang Chaos State, I actually encountered a reclusive Chaos Realm Peak Master, Lian, who felt that his luck was extremely bad. And he once offered a hiring price of 200 million cosmic sands. If I had known earlier that he was a reclusive Chaos Realm Peak Master, I would have been happy to hire him, not to mention 200 million cosmic sands, even 2 billion cosmic sands would have been hired. But it's too late now. Things have developed to this point and they are completely at odds with Luo He, who lives in seclusion in the Chaos Realm. This brother Luo He is actually at the peak of the Chaos Realm. The escaped Zhu Jianghu who appeared in the City Lord's mansion was full of surprise. 100 million universe sands could actually invite a Chaos Realm subversion? What kind of luck? Luo He. The huge face in the dark red sky stared at Luo Feng. How dare you, a reclusive primal Chaos Realm cultivator, interfere in the fight between me and Lord Zhujiang? I had no intention of intervening. What does the dispute between your two fiefdoms have to do with me? Luo Feng shook his head gently, but your men have repeatedly taken action, slaughtering innocent people, and this happened in the city where I live in seclusion. How can I tolerate this? Lian, who changed his mind. It was true. Shuiyan killed Chu at first, but Luo He eventually chased him out of the city and still killed Shuiyan. When the Xinjiang sect entered the city, Luo He was patient, but when the Xinjiang sect looted the whole city and started slaughtering people, Luo He took action. The two armies were deployed. Luo He showed his super strong eternal true God strength from beginning to end. He could play the role of 100 million cosmic sands with 100 million cosmic sands. But when Liu Yinyang captured hundreds of billions of blood food, Luo He took action. A bunch of idiots, they have brought me into big trouble. Liu Yinhu looked down at Luo Feng. Although he knew the situation was a bit bad, he was still full of confidence in himself. Luo He, no matter what the reason is, since you have intervened, I want to see if you have the strength to intervene. Liu Yinhu's voice was mighty. The voice attacked with a strange will and came instantly. As a peak of the Chaos Realm, Liu Yinhu had honed his mind and will to the level of a God King over the long years. Knowing that Luo He was so powerful, he began to go all out. Your willpower secret technique is buzzing like a bug? Luo Feng frowned slightly. It's really ugly. His will is just as strong as mine and I can't shake it at all. Liu Yinhu was more and more certain that this was an old fellow who had been practicing for who knows how long, and his mind and will had been honed to terrifying levels. If you don't have any tricks, then get out. Luo Feng waved his sleeves. 8,000 galaxies of sword light swept across the world in an instant, making the world clear. The blood and fire were all annihilated, leaving only a mixed airflow. The blood and fire world of Liu Yin, whose incarnation was very vast. Luo Feng's 8,000 galaxies were less than 1/10 of it. After knowing Luo Feng's moves, Liu Yin, whose divine power retreated to a very far distance. The damage this time was much smaller than the first time. As many spatial layers healed naturally, the world returned to peace, and the world of blood and fire spread again. Humph! Along with a cold snort between heaven and earth, blood and fire began to burn on Luo Feng's body. Luo Feng felt it carefully and felt as if he had become the enemy of the vast world. Endless malice gathered on his body, and he was also burned and corroded by blood and fire. Without any trace, it eroded my body out of thin air? Luo Feng looked at him in amazement. Compared to my stupid 8,000 sword lights, Liu Yin, whose moves are indeed much weirder. Useless? Liu Yinhu, who transformed into the world of blood and fire, indeed realized that blood and fire could hardly hurt Luo Feng's body. Rumble. Suddenly, there was a loud rumbling sound throughout the world of blood and fire. The world power of this world of blood and fire gathered at one point, and the figure of a man in dark red armor condensed out of thin air in front of Luo Feng. As soon as the dark red armored man appeared, he chopped Luo Feng's shoulder with a knife. Luo Feng reacted quickly, otherwise the knife would have chopped on his head. Is this the body of the world? Luo Feng learned the detailed information about Liu Yinhu from Di Chuyu, and knew that the dark red armored man in front of him was not Liu Yinhu's real body, but the body of the world gathered by the power of the entire blood and fire world. The body of the world gathers the power of one world, and it is extremely powerful. It is naturally terrifying in close combat. And even if it is defeated, it will be disintegrated into the power of the world and cannot hurt Liu Yinhu's real body. What a strong knife, and it suddenly appeared in front of me, it's hard to dodge. Luo Feng still stood in mid-air, looking at the blade on his shoulder. The dark red armored man chopped Luo Feng's shoulder with a knife, and was also shocked. Because this knife couldn't even cut the black robe on Luo Feng's shoulders, and his skin was not broken at all. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Countless black liquids instantly flowed from Luo Feng's black robe, instantly wrapping up the knife and even the entire body of the man in dark red armor. Fight with me in close combat? Luo Feng shook his head slightly. Among the 15 transformation methods he mastered, except for the galaxy transformation method which was good at field moves, the other transformation methods were biased towards close combat. Luo Feng carefully selected 5 methods of change for normal use. So in normal combat, the galaxy transformation method is for long-range combat, and the other 4 transformation methods are for close combat. Luo Feng's close combat strength is much more terrifying than his long-range combat strength. Squeak. The man in dark red armor wrapped in black liquid collapsed and annihilated in an instant under the extremely terrifying force, leaving only the long sword with blood and fire patterns. Good weapon. Luo Feng held the knife. In order to make the world body burst out with enough power in close combat, Liu Yinhu naturally equipped it with the best weapons. This sword can be said to be the best among the weapons in the Chaos Realm. This sword is suitable for a Chaos Peak Master to use. It is worth at least 5 billion cosmic sands. Luo Feng praised, "It belongs to me." Backhandedly put it into the Star Tower. Luo Feng looked at the world of blood and fire in the sky. Does Marquis Lian have any other tricks? Luo Feng looked at him leisurely. How is it possible? Liu Yinhu couldn't believe it at this moment. My world body gathers the power of the entire blood and fire world, and it is extremely powerful, but it was wrapped by the black liquid and had no power to resist. That crushing binding force instantly crushed the body of the world's god. There is a huge gap in close combat. No wonder I thought his moves were crude. It turns out that he is best at his physical body. His physical body is much stronger than my worldly body. Liu Yinhu immediately understood the difference between them. Every Chaos Peak has his own path to success. Liu Yinhu is so powerful that he can transform himself into a world of blood and fire so that the enemy cannot threaten his true body. And if one focuses on the physical body and cultivates to the peak of the Chaos Realm, the physical body will be extremely terrifying. Even for an ancient being who has just entered the god level, it is extremely difficult to completely wipe out a physical body at the peak of the Chaos Realm. Such a strong person is suitable for being imprisoned and confined. If you want to kill him, it usually takes a long time to wear him down and slowly destroy him. Your divine body is very strong, but I want to see if your divine body is really flawless. Liu Yinhu was unwilling to give up easily. Immediately, the world of blood and fire was surging, and invisible forces kept descending, trying to penetrate Luo Feng's divine body. These invisible forces included strange blood, burning flames, and the power of disaster. Various strange forces kept penetrating. Liu Yinhu knew that some powerful bodies seemed to be extremely powerful and indestructible. But if some special forces were used to penetrate, they might be able to penetrate successfully and completely destroy them. You want to wear down my divine body, Ha ha ha. Luo Feng suddenly laughed. Rumble, Luo Feng's body suddenly grew to an incredible height. He had passed through countless clouds, and his head had touched the edge of the starry sky. When Luo Feng raised his head, he saw countless small universes in the starry sky. At this moment, one of his fingers was much larger than Huyang City. The size of his body was so huge that even Liu Yinhu was shocked. How can he maintain such a huge divine body? Liu Yinhu was shocked. It can touch the edge of the starry sky. Although the infinite divine body can be big or small, the bigger it is, the stronger it is suppressed by the world. The head of the foot has already touched the edge of the starry sky. And the higher starry sky is forbidden to touch under the supreme rules, and those small universes cannot be damaged. Such a height. This is the maximum height a practitioner can reach. Only an ancient god king could reach such a height. Even if he is at the peak of the chaos realm and focuses on his physical body, this size is incredible. Yinhu knew very well that sometimes a large body size could reflect strength. A divine body that could maintain the height of heaven and earth represented endless power. Get out! Luo Feng shouted, and his hands covered the entire world of blood and fire. With a wave of his hand, the world of blood and fire was completely shattered into chaos. When the world of blood and fire was shattered, the invisible force used the heaven and earth to escape to a very far place in an instant, and then transformed into a body of blood and fire in the far distance, causing Liu Yinhu to be even more seriously injured. Luo He, if you are willing not to interfere in the dispute between me and Lord Zhejiang, everything will be fine. Lord Liu Yin spoke from a distance. I'll take care of this place. The towering divine body as tall as the sky and earth looked at him, and his voice boomed. This video will end here.